In the year 2025, I witnessed the Club World Cup, the first of its kind. I saw the Super Falcons going on to achieve a 10th women's AFCON title. And then I saw the Tigers, Nigeria women's national basketball team, achieving a 5th consecutive and a 7th Afrobasket women's title, amongst other exciting sporting events that took place. And now in the year 2026 coming up on us, I am looking forward to the WAFCON 2026, and of course the big one, the FIFA World Cup, and as well the regular league tournaments. Welcome to today's video, guys. In today's video, I'm here to do a recap of my year 2025 in sports, as well as my predictions for the year 2026. So let's go. Now, one of the tournaments that stood out for me, or one of the sporting events that stood out for me in the year 2025 was, of course, the Club World Cup, the first, depending on if you classify the recent, the now named International Cup, which was formerly the Club World Cup, if you still address it as the Club World Cup. But yeah, the Club World Cup, an actual World Cup with 32 clubs from around the world, converging in the United States of America, a tournament that was very controversial, that was besieged with bad weather, bad high tickets, visa issues, so many issues, critique from the players, from the different players, worldwide, FIFPro, criticism of FIFA about straining the what's it called now, the issue of player fatigue and fixture congestion even further, and all of this was sort of watered down a bit by the money that was guaranteed to the clubs participating. Clubs like Real Madrid got up to about 100 million for participating in this tournament, and eventual winners Chelsea got well over 100 million for participating. And then there's also the funding to smaller clubs like the likes of Auckland City, that most people had not heard of before the Club World Cup, got more than $1 million for participating in that tournament. They didn't win any match, but they were able to get 1 point. But you know what $1 million will do for a club like Auckland City? And then we had from Africa Mamelodi Sundowns and Al Ahly, and some African clubs who are well run, by the way, who are all well run clubs. But the money they also got from that tournament is probably $3-4 million. None of them made it out of the group stage, but that money goes a long way, especially when you convert to the local currencies in their country. So the Club World Cup was a very controversial tournament, and rightly so. Maybe it was not done the best of times, but it had many issues that could have made it to not go on, and affected the quality of the football we saw. It was very hot at certain times, and then there was matches that were postponed while in play, that were sort of suspended for over an hour, up to I think over 2 hours in certain matches, because of thunderstorms and lightning in the area. It was just a mess at times, and people started to question, why, if this is happening now, this is going to be the same time that the actual World Cup will be played in 2026, the same period of the year. So is this the kind of things we are going to be seeing and all of that? And there's a couple of closed roof stadiums, but how many are they really? Especially in the US, and now it's in 3 countries. So there were a lot of issues with the Club World Cup, but I still watched it. I was not one of those football fans that said, we're not going to watch it, this one and that. Trust me, most of the people were lying anyways. I still watched it. The club I support, Barcelona, did not participate in the Club World Cup, and I thought that could be like a blessing in disguise for us, even though the money that those clubs got from participating in the Club World Cup was serious money, especially clubs from Europe. All the clubs did not get the same money, but the way the prize pot was distributed was based on like star power of the clubs and the way they can attract eyes on the tournament as well, which is a very fair distribution model. And I thought it was a blessing in disguise for Barca. If we didn't, we need that money desperately. But I thought the fact that we had a long season. We participated in 4 tournaments. We won. I think we won how many trophies now? I think we won about 3 trophies, and then our season was very long. We won La Liga, we won Copa del Rey, we won the Spanish Super Cup in January. So we went far in Champions League. I thought our players needed a decent time to rest. So it was kind of bittersweet for me not seeing Barcelona, but also I just consoled myself with the fact that okay, maybe some of our players will be fresh going into the new season, and we won't have as many injury issues as the club that participated. So far, I've not really seen the issue of injury being affecting club or cup teams in particular. I think since the new season started, 2025, 2026, there has still been injury issues regardless, affecting everybody. Maybe over the course of the season or towards the business end of the season in March or April or from February or maybe even into the new year, we're going to be seeing more injuries in the teams that participated in the Club World Cup. But so far, I don't think injury has really been an issue in particular to those teams. And for the tournament overall, I think it was okay, but I don't think that was the best club football I ever saw. Obviously, the final was a really, really interesting one. I don't think anybody expected Chelsea to win. Talk less of beating PSG 3-0, and the way they did it was fantastic. And Chelsea were not favorites to win that tournament. Really, they were one of the European teams that people just thought would participate and go as far as they can. And yeah, it was very controversial. There were so many issues around the tournament, but it went ahead eventually. And yeah, I watched as many games as I could. Trust me, I did. It was a new experience to see 32 clubs at the summer time going to play a World Cup. It just, and then obviously there were really interesting matches. There were clubs from South America that were making upsets. Flamengo got to the semi-finals. I think it was just brilliant. And PSG also almost won it. There were just so many sub stories and subplots around the tournament that made it for good viewing. And yeah, regardless of whatever issues affected it, it was a tournament like no other. And trust me, it kept people's eyes glued to it. So that was my review of the Club World Cup in the year 2025. Now, on to something that is closer to home. That's the WAFCON 2024, and in particular, the Super Falcons of Nigeria. I have to go back, obviously, to the video I recorded a couple of months ago where I said categorically that the Super Falcons will not win WAFCON. And I said that because I felt that team had too many issues bothering them, and even though their talent was comparable to no other team in Africa, I started to think that the chasing pack in Africa caught up to us, especially because we got knocked out in the semi-final in the last WAFCON. Controversial in the AFCON in 2022, the one before we won just recently. Controversial anyways, 2 red cards against Morocco and all of that. But we lost to Zambia in the 3rd place, which I thought we shouldn't have. But also they were protesting their unpaid bonuses, which is very common with Nigerian teams, and they boycotted training and all of that. I thought that the chasing pack had caught up with us, but this team, they surprised me again. The Super Falcons, they started a bit shaky in the group stages, but it's tournament football. I guess you get stronger along the way. And then where I thought they picked up, they picked things up was in the quarterfinals against Zambia, where they just walled through Zambia 4 or 5-0. And then in the semi-final against South Africa, obviously that was going to always be a tough game. South Africa is the 2nd-ranked team in Africa. We've had really nice meetings with them over the past few years. Very interesting, very close games. And so when we faced South Africa in the semi-finals, it was really tough. We scored the equalizer and we eventually won the game 2-1. Got to the final, we played in Morocco again, and we went 2-0 down, and I thought it was over. Everybody thought it was over, and then the remontada started the second half, and up until the point where we scored that 3rd goal, I didn't really celebrate any goal because I watch football these days with a very, very neutral stance, even like the club I'm supporting. That third goal just awakened emotions in me that I never knew happened. The way I shouted for that goal was, I was really happy for the team. I would never be sad that, the thing I predicted did not come to pass. And it's not even like I predicted it on the betting website or anything that I was going to win money if the Falcons don't win. No, I didn't do that. So I was very much joyful that they were able to achieve their 10th WAFCON title. That win was for the players and the players alone. I do not recognize anybody in Nigerian Football Federation that said they contributed to that win, because the issues that plagued the Super Falcons long before the tournament still plagued them in that tournament, still being owed bonuses and wages. And their training kits did not get to them. They didn't even get to use their training kits until like the quarterfinals. Obviously excuses, and all of that. The NFF saying the customs in Morocco did not clear, which is very bogus, because they are not the only team playing the tournament. You can't tell me that how come the customs did not have, how come the other teams in the tournament did not have same issues that only you happen to have. So just different issues. And I tender an apology yet again for saying the Super Falcons would not win the WAFCON, and they proved me wrong. They are a very spectacular team. I say every chance that I get that team is the only, in fact, all our female teams are the only team that national teams that I really support. Maybe female and youth, because I'm detached from Nigerian football generally. I watch it maybe every chance I get, but I'm detached in terms of like emotion wise. It doesn't really affect me win or lose, but I'm more detached from the Super Eagles. I feel more connection to our youth and our female teams, because I know for sure that, imagine the Super Eagles being old bonuses going into years. What do you think goes on with the Super Falcons and our youth teams and our female youth teams as well? I say this every time. So yeah, they have it really tough. Super Eagles are big players. They are very influential. They can do and undo to a certain extent, but they are still subject to the whims of the NFF. Now imagine what the Super Falcons go through. People who have said on interview over the past year that at some point they had to wash clothes by themselves in camp. That's just sad. So yeah, the WAFCON 2024 was a very spectacular tournament. Kudos to Morocco for hosting yet again. Turnout was not so great. Yeah, women's football, it can be better in Africa, but overall, it was, from a Nigerian point of view, there's nothing more I could ask for. So yeah, fantastic performance for the Super Falcons. Before I go on, let me take a little water break. Now, moving on to there were two Afrobasket tournaments in the year 2025, which our men's and women's teams participated in, the Tigress and the Tigers. Of course, I have to start with the Tigress. Another fantastic performance at Afrobasket. They did it again. They achieved a 5th consecutive women's Afrobasket title and the 7th women's Afrobasket title. It was spectacular. It was just, and even more beautiful. It happened just just a week and a few days after the women won the WAFCON title. It was so brilliant. That was like the women's month in sports in Nigeria that year. That was like in 2025 in August, I think. It was really brilliant. I'm not the biggest fan of basketball. I'm not going to come here and act like I know basketball entirely, but I do follow our national teams at major tournaments. And what I saw with that basketball team, they were just the couple of games that I could watch. They were really, really good. I think we are really good in Africa with football and basketball in our women's national teams, and the way they achieved it was spectacular. The games were really, really entertaining. There were times when we were against the ropes, but every time we always found somewhere to dig deep and come back, and it was just brilliant. As for the Tigers, they played their own tournaments not long after the women's Afrobasket, and they couldn't I think they got knocked out in the quarterfinals or so. And yeah, it was we were hoping that okay we win the men's and women's, but sadly we it was not to be. The Tigers are not as good compared to their opponents in African basketball, like the Tigers. Obviously, that's not necessarily just because of talent. There's a lot of administrative issues plaguing them, just like the NFF. The NBBF is an incredibly corrupt organization as well. It's no news really. So if we do things right, we will win more Afrobasket titles. It's not rocket science. So yeah, that's that about that. And now rounding up year 2025. This one is for all my boxing lovers, and in particular, if you follow British boxing, it was the double fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. This was something that shook British boxing in the year 2025 because this was a story that was many years in the making, as their fathers also fought. Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn also fought it. They also boxers, also fought each other twice back in the days, and the Eubanks before this sort of had one over the Benns because Chris Eubank stopped Nigel Benn in one of the fights, I think in the 10th round, and in the second fight, there was a I think it was a draw or something like that, or unanimous decision. So he went that second fight basically went the distance, and then they came to fight again, to do it again. They came to fight again. Their sons got to fight again, got to take to the stage again, and it was a really really entertaining outcome because the way this fight took place was very entertaining because there was so much sort of bad blood, or so it seemed, before the first fight, and then they eventually got to fight. But before the fight though, there was amidst all the back and forth, Chris Eubank Jr. failed to make weight, and it was very strenuous for him to make weight before that fight. So he did everything he could to get in shape for that fight in like 24 hours. And he had to like forfeit some amount of money or so, I think about 500k pounds or something like that. So eventually the fight came about, and it was really entertaining to watch. Both fighters gave it their all, and it was just spectacular. Chris Eubank Jr. brought his father. They had sort of had a strained relationship before that time, but it was a surprise because people had not really seen him with his father in a long time. Obviously, Conor Benn's father came with him to the ring. There was a lot of entertainment. This fight was made very entertaining, even outside of the ring. And when it came to it, it was 12 rounds of spectacular boxing. And at the end of the day, Chris Eubank Jr.'s hand was raised, and some people found it controversial. Obviously, the Benns thought they won. I think the issue with the scoring in that fight was the fact that it looked a bit farther than how close it was. The way the judges scored it for Chris Eubank Jr. Maybe I thought Chris Eubank Jr. won, but only because he probably landed more impactful strikes or something like that. But Chris Eubank Jr., I don't think he won in the way the judges scored the fight as the first fight. So, but yeah, there was a rematch, and then the rematch came about, and this time it was also pretty much entertaining. Chris Eubank Jr. came with his father, came with 50 Cent, and it was just spectacular. There was entertainment, there were drummers and all of that. The both fighters came prepared this time, or so we thought, because when the fight started, Chris Eubank Jr. looked a bit uninterested and not as energetic as he was in the first fight. He was on the defense for a large part of the fight. He came into the fight losing more weight than the first fight, looking slimmer, and of course Conor Benn had him on ropes at certain times, especially towards the end of the fight. He got knocked down twice, and obviously Conor Benn won the fight, but it was really really entertaining to watch because this fight was this second fight was like the first victory for the Benn over the Eubanks, so it was so interesting, especially following the history and all of that. And then obviously Chris Eubank Senior saying he didn't want Chris to fight the rematch and all of that, and he didn't even want, in particular, to Chris to even be a boxer, and that's kind of like been part of the issues why their relationship was strained. So it was a lot of things that there was so much backstory to this fight, but Conor Benn finally got one over the Eubanks for himself, for his father. Was beautiful to watch, really. And after the second fight, they sort of had some words spoken to each other, probably for like the first time in a civil manner. And it sort of seems like the beef is squashed now. They both have one over each other, and yeah, that's that about that. So that's it for my year in 2025. Those were some of the major sports events that got my attention in the year 2025. So now we go into 2026, and of course, I'm starting with WAFCON 2026, and of course, this is happening less than 1 year after the WAFCON in 2020, the last WAFCON, and yeah, it is happening in Morocco again. If you watch a couple of my videos in the past, I've explained why Morocco is getting to host everything, hosting the AFCON that is ongoing, or that will be ongoing as at the time you see this video. Yeah, it is. Well, a couple of countries, most countries have not really shown interest in hosting the AFCON anyway, so hence why Morocco are going to be hosting 3 times back to back. This one is more important than the last because it is the qualification for the Women's World Cup in 2027. So if we achieved anything at the last WAFCON, we need to put all of that aside now and go into the next one. And of course, the NFF has failed again, has been inept, has shown their hand again. They have allowed the Super Falcons, they have allowed another international window to pass by, I think in December, or it was in November, where the Super Falcons did not get to play any international friends because they didn't have any friendlies organized for them. And imagine that's going into another major tournament, especially one where the qualification for the World Cup is at stake. And then when I see that, I feel like the Super Falcons are no longer far above the chasing pack. People are going to come for me and tell me I don't know what I'm saying. These are the issues. But yeah, this is a tournament obviously to look forward to, and I expect, the least that I expect is for us to get to the semi-finals and even the finals, because that's really our level in Africa. But honestly, at this point, even if we don't win this tournament, I will not even really feel hurt, to be honest. Obviously, also, this is the first women's AFCON that is going to have 16 teams, by the way. And the way CAF decided the 16 teams was a bit controversial because there were 12 qualifying spots, and then the remaining 4 was basically decided off the rankings. The remaining 4 were like the highest ranked 4 teams that are not qualified initially, and some of the teams that have not even really played in a long time got to go into the tournament because of that. So it was not necessarily on current form or merit, so to say. Yeah. So WAFCON 2026 is going to be an entertaining one, but we look forward to how this is going to take place in Morocco yet again. Like I said, if we don't get to win the Super Falcons, I wouldn't be too bothered. I just want us to qualify for the World Cup. I think it would be unheard of if we don't make it to the World Cup. So we've won 10 titles already. If we don't win this one, well, it happens. It's what it is, football. So yeah, so going into the leagues for 2026, La Liga, of course, as at the time of recording this video, Barcelona on top. I expect us to win again. I don't think our closest competition, as usual, Real Madrid, maybe they faltered a while. I'm not sure what's happening with Xabi Alonso right now and Real Madrid and the situation at the club. But I expect them to still finish strongly, but I expect Barca to win again. I think over the course of the season, we've been the better team, and we are going to be the better team towards the end of the season. So yeah, as for other clubs chasing pack, so to say, Atletico are not really mounting pressure on us like that. So yeah, that's just it. I expect Barcelona to win La Liga. The Premier League, it's really tight right now. Arsenal, they're there or thereabouts. They are the top of the we'll see. There's some speculation that this could be Pep's last season at City. Recently, there's some speculation about that. So the player may want to win it for him. But I think this has to be Arsenal's time. If this is not Arsenal's time, Mikel Arteta is going to have it hot. Because 3 seasons finishing in second place, it is now or never. And one thing I've realized with league title chases is that if you don't win when you have the momentum, you may never get a chance to win again in a long time. So this is Arsenal's best phase in the past maybe 10 years. So it's, or maybe even since they last won the league. So they have to win it this time. If City gets to win that league again, man, I don't think Arsenal are going to win it in a long time, and it'll be sad for Mikel Arteta that with such a good team he never got to win anything. So as for Serie A, I would say it's really entertaining right now. Inter Milan, there's Napoli, there's AC Milan. There's a couple of teams vying for the title right now. Napoli are not resting on their achievements from last season. So Antonio Conte seems to still be in the race, and the Champions League participation is not really affecting him like he used to do with him in previous clubs. People say, oh, Antonio Conte is a manager that would only win the league. It's only likely to win the league when he's not playing in Europe, or when his club is not playing in Europe. So that has not really happened this season. Napoli is also really fighting. So it's a tough one. That one, I don't think I can call it. There's like 3 teams that could really realistically win it. So yeah. As for the NPFL, that's for us to come home now, the Nigerian Premier Football League, the defending champions Remo Stars have not really come to the party. A couple of their players, their best players, were sold. As is typical with Nigerian football, when a team either wins the league or does really well, their players get sold out, and the replacement is not really good enough. So Remo Stars are not really doing well right now, and some of the teams that are probably showing themselves as title contenders: Shooting Stars, Ikorodu City, Rivers United, there or thereabout. So yeah, I think Remo Stars are not really. I don't think they will be able to defend their title, and the fact that their coach Daniel Ogumodede is always with the Super Eagles every now and then, I don't think it's really helping the team. And at some point, I feel like he's going to have to leave his role as Remo Stars head coach. He's not usually with the team, so that might also be affecting. But obviously, the crux of their underperformance this season is the fact that they've sold a couple of their best players, which, their hands are tied with these things, really. You just take the money. It's big money to clubs. It's not big money, maybe $100,000 or $200,000 here and there, but to Nigerian clubs, that's a lot of money. That's more than the money you even get for winning the MPFL. So it's big money to them. So they just have to sell like most other Nigerian clubs do. And yeah, so I don't really know who is going to win the MPFL. That's just it. As for the UCL, right now Arsenal again is still doing well in the UCL, and Arsenal is the only team at the time of recording this video that has a perfect record. And if you ask me who win, aside my team, of course, Barcelona, it has to be Arsenal. I think that Arsenal are doing really well. They got to the since they got back to the Champions League after their absence for a couple of years, they have the first time back. They got to the quarterfinals, I think, and then last season they got to the semi-finals. And then now they are looking really good. They might go to the final, possibly go all the way. But obviously, I want Barcelona to be the team that will stop them from going all the way. Barcelona, we got close last season. We lost to Inter, and in a manner that was quite heartbreaking for a lot of Barca fans. And this season, I believe we've learned our lessons. We'll try to tweak things with the high line, especially, and we will defend, especially when we have the lead late in the games. And yeah, I think Barca has not started the season as good as they started last season in Champions League, but I think that we've learned lessons from last season, and the team has grown, the squad has grown. We are also going to improve. So I believe that I think Barca to win this Champions League. that's whether that's something coming from my heart or my head. I just see us winning it, and probably we are going to face Arsenal in the final if the structure of the tournament does not make us face them before the final. I would see Barca and Arsenal to be in the final. So yeah, I say Barcelona to win, and if not, probably Arsenal. But I just don't see it happening with Arsenal right now. So yeah, um, and then to the the FIFA World Cup. I would say the FIFA World Cup is the big one in 2026, the biggest tournament to look out for in 2026. Now, there's a lot of issues surrounding the FIFA World Cup. I can't possibly discuss everything right now, but as at the time of recording this video, there's been a lot of issues about the ticket sales. Fans are complaining about FIFA and the way they are structured, the allocation of the tickets, and even the reselling. FIFA is now directly involved in the reselling of tickets, and they get some sort of cut, about 25% from every resale of World Cup tickets. And then the tickets are really, really astronomical compared to, I saw a comparison with the ticket prices and what it will cost entirely for flights, accommodation to the World Cup in Qatar and all of that, for like maybe England, France, for example, and it was almost 10 times more than what they were going to spend. So people have been complaining about this and all of that. And FIFA's response to this was to introduce what they call a supporter tier ticket or something like that. I don't know the exact name they call it right now, where they basically said that they are going to allocate. So first off, it's going to be 8% of the entire stadium's capacity. So for example, if the stadium's capacity is about 50,000, there's going to be about say 4,000 something tickets that we put aside. Then out of that 4,000, there will be 10% of that 4,000, which will be about 400 and something, will now be given directly to the federations of all 48 teams that have qualified, to be sold at a very much discounted price. Now, that ticket is assumed that ticket will be given to the most loyal fans of the country, people who have always gone to tournaments to support the national teams. And so FIFA have left it to the prerogative of the federations to allocate the tickets however they deem fit. So, but obviously that's still not gone down well with the fans. They think that FIFA are just taking the easy way out. And ultimately, the people who probably can make more impact on this issue are people who benefit a lot from FIFA, because now FIFA has now gone on to say that the World Cup prize pot is going to be increased by 50%, right? So that means that the winners get up to about 37 million or so, and then teams that are participating get at least 9 million or so. And so it's a lot of money. So when FIFA is giving out this money to federations like that, how do you expect them to protest the high cost of tickets? The federations are not going to see anything. The federation president are not going to see anything. It's so much win for them. So it's just what it is. The way this thing works is when every tournament comes around and people complain about ticket prices and all of that, the people who are ultimately benefiting from this money, the people who a large chunk of this money goes to, is the federations. And what that does for the leadership of FIFA, and in particular Gianni Infantino, as of this moment, is that when it's time for re-election as the FIFA president, he's going to probably go unopposed or going to get the support of most of the federations, because he's just giving them money and giving them a lot of money to support football and all of that. So that's just what it is. Fans cannot really do anything about it. FIFA have just given them sort of a meager amount of tickets to say, okay, this is for the most loyal fans of your country, and that's the best we can do. Anything else is not our own doing. So ultimately, that's just what it is, especially with the ticket. And of course, there's the issue with the visas for the US in particular. Donald Trump being Donald Trump, since his tenure has, immigration to the US has become worse, and in particular affecting the World Cup. We saw at the World Cup draw, Iranian Football Federation officials being refused visas to attend the World Cup draw in Washington, D.C. And even recently, the US again has imposed visa bans on a couple of countries, and some of those countries are countries that have qualified for the World Cup. But the US has said that the players and the officials and the players' families will be exempt from the visa bans, but most of the fans I don't think are exempt. So it's going to be really hard, and we remains to be seen how FIFA can help in this process. Usually in countries that host the tournament in recent times, that host certain tournaments, with the World Cup in Qatar and the AFCON in Morocco in particular, there is this thing where they introduce where it's like an app where you can get your visa and everything in one place. But that's for countries that are sort of like welcoming to tourists. The US doesn't really care about that right now, so I don't expect them to do that in the months leading up to the World Cup. Obviously, Canada and Mexico is going to be easier for fans to go to the World Cup. So I think that fans of countries who are going to be playing their group games in Canada and Mexico are going to be more fortunate to watch. But the latter stages of these tournaments will take place in the US. So it's not something you can really walk around. If your country is going to go far, you will still be affected directly or indirectly by the immigration policies of the US right now. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen in the months leading up to the World Cup, and how the America's immigration restrictions are going to affect the tournament in particular. But this is going to be one like no other. 48 teams, it promises to be one like no other. Obviously, people have questioned the quality of the tournament and how it's going to be. Is it going to be watered down and all of that? But in the same vein, you have the opportunities given to smaller nations to qualify, likes of Curacao and Cape Verde, making their first ever World Cup. Small countries, island countries, success stories and all. So there's obviously the good and the pros and cons of it. But obviously, I think it is a net positive to have 48 teams participate in the World Cup more than anything else. It is not so much about the issue of the quality of football. I think the fact that there are more countries participating and football is now spread to a wider global audience is a net positive for the game. And so, yeah, that's why I think the World Cup will be one like no other. It remains to be seen. It's a huge logistical arrangement for FIFA to organize World Cup in 3 equally large countries. USA and Canada are very large, and then Mexico is also quite large as well. So it is an unprecedented tournament. It remains to be seen how much FIFA would put into organizing this tournament. I expect them to deliver a masterpiece as always. With the World Cup, it's their biggest event, so I expect things to go on smoothly. Possibly where there'll be more issues will probably even be in the US, but with things in Canada and Mexico will probably go more smoothly. The US will probably have the usual visa issues affecting the tournament, and then the weather problems like we saw in the Club World Cup. So yeah, that's just it for now. Nigeria didn't qualify, sadly. Let me just take a breath for that, because yeah, that weakened me in a way. But yeah, second time back to back we didn't qualify. There's still this issue of Nigeria taking Congo to FIFA and saying they fielded 9 ineligible players, and then there's this issue of whether Congo really violated any FIFA regulations or violated their own country's regulations, and if their own country's regulations affect the way FIFA sees things. But I'm not really sure if FIFA is going to rule in favor against Congo rather. And even if they do, there's also the issue of where does Cameroon come in, because Cameroon played Congo in the playoffs before Nigeria did. So it's just a lot of things that and those alleged ineligible players also played against Cameroon. So what happens? Does Nigeria go to the intercontinental playoffs to face Jamaica or New Caledonia in place of Congo, or does Nigeria get to play Cameroon again and Congo gets qualified? So it remains to be seen what's going to happen with that. So, but yeah, that's for now everything I have to say about the FIFA World Cup. Yeah, and that brings me to the end of today's video, guys. Today I have done a review of my 2025 year in sports, the events that stood out to me in the year 2025. They range from football, basketball, boxing, and the likes. And then to the year 2026, where I made my predictions for the WAFCON and regular leagues, La Liga, Serie A, EPL, NPFL, Nigerian Premier Football League, the UEFA Champions League, and of course the biggest one of the year, the FIFA World Cup. So guys, thank you for watching to the end of this video. As I have promised, this month is going to be very busy on my channel. I'm going to be recording a couple of videos about AFCON. I'm going to be giving you a vlog from MMA Fight Nights I'm going to be attending later this month. And yeah, just stick around, there will be something for you, I assure you, for all sports fans. Yeah, really. So if you enjoyed the video, please share to all football fans and all sports fans and everybody. And thank you to all my subscribers for rocking with me so far. And until I come your way next time, is bye for now, guys. Ciao.